Well, there is an arms race happening. These will be weapons of terror, weapons of mass destruction. They will be the next revolution in warfare after nuclear bombs. And we do have a moment. The United Nations is, I'm pleased to say, formally discussing these issues, but there needs to be a bit more urgency. The talks that were due to begin today have been delayed till the end of the year. And we wanted to remind the world and give a bit more urgency to the diplomats to take this issue very seriously.
So define the lethal autonomous weapons for us and what examples are already in use.
So these are weapons where there is no human in the loop. The computer is making the final life or death decision. So there aren't many examples actually in existence today. There are lots of prototypes in pretty much every sphere of the battle. There is a fully autonomous sentry robot built by Samsung, the people who make your smartphone, in the DMZ between North and South Korea. And we already have semi-autonomous drones that are doing a lot of the fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's a small technical leap to take the soldier who's making that decision to fire its Hellfire missile in a container in Nevada, replace that by a computer. UK's Ministry of Defence have said they think it's technically possible. I agree with them. And so it's only a matter of time before they are operational and that they are waging wars of terror elsewhere.
And how does a computer make a decision on what a valid target is?
Well, that's one of the things that we're very worried about, that a computer really isn't capable of making those sorts of decisions. When the drone papers were leaked out of the Pentagon in November last year, it was shown that 9 out of 10 of the people they were targeting were not the intended victim. With a computer, we would be aspiring to make 9 out of 10 mistakes. That would be our aspiration. We would be making far more mistakes than that with the current technology today. So it's stupid AI, not smart AI, that we're actually worried about now.
And so what is the worst case scenario here if these got into the wrong hands? Give us a picture of what could happen. Are we talking about robots running the streets, killing anything that moves?
Well, they will be used by despots. They will be picked up and used by terrorist organisations like ISIS, and they will be used against civilians. And any safeguards that the US or the UK military put on them will be removed. Every computer we know can be hacked. So they will be used to inflict terror on civilians, not just fight war against other machines and other soldiers.
Yeah. And what about the sci-fi version of this, with a network developing its own plan to undermine humanity? Is that far-fetched or something that's plausible?
Well, unfortunately, that risk is still a long, long way away. We're much more worried about much more immediate risk, technologies that are rather stupid that will be fielded in the next 5 or 10 years. The Terminator, Skynet sort of scenario is still perhaps 100 or even more years away. So we've got plenty of time to prepare for that one, but we haven't got plenty of time to prepare for this one.
So there's been a push on for a ban for quite some time. How does this letter take that further?
Well, this is the first time that companies working in robotics and AI have said with one voice that this is an issue the UN needs to take very seriously with a lot of urgency. 2 years ago, we put a letter together, similar sort of letter, but that was by academics and researchers, saying again with one voice. That helped to push it onto the agenda at the UN, and now we'd like to add some more urgency to those discussions, showing that it's just not academia, it's not just researchers, but it's also the industry that will be developing the technology, putting it into the field.
And so what are your hopes with a timeline on a possible ban?
We only have a few more years before the technology is out there. And once it's out there, it's going to be much harder, not impossible, but much harder to get it banned and to get it removed from the arsenals of the world. So we have time, but not very much left now.
And so what's your best case scenario then? A UN resolution getting approved within the next 2 years?
I imagine it was going to take 2 or 3 years. There might be a ban, like there have been successful bans on other weapon types, blinding lasers, anti-personnel mines, and also the older bans on chemical and biological weapons. They've all been very, very effective. They haven't completely eliminated the technologies, but they have made it morally repugnant to use the technologies and greatly curtailed their use in the battles today.
And what's the feedback you're getting from the US on this?
Well, the US, interestingly, it actually is the only country in the world that actually has any formal legislation. It does have a Department of Defense Resolution 3001, which requires always humans to be in the loop in decision-making. But they've been very reluctant to allow the UN to go any further than this.